Michelle, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Nice to speak with you, Manny.
Yeah, we're here to talk about Lionsgate's float. I spoke with Sharon a couple of days ago, and that was a lovely chat about, a really interesting film that I enjoyed it. Tell us a little bit about your character, Rachel.
Rachel is that aunt we all wish we had, not the crazy version, but the sane version who gives good advice and doesn't pass judgment on you. And for me, she was the aunt I wish I'd grown up with, who could have given me good advice in hard times. And that's what she does for the main character, Waverly. She gives her reliable things that she can think about as she's going through her love affair with Blake.
Yeah, it's I thought your character was great just because of that fact. It's an interesting thing to think about as a parent myself who has two brothers. So my daughter has a couple of uncles. Anytime you let them go out, there's a level of parenting, but also a level of freedom that you get with your uncles and aunts that you don't get with your parents. That sometimes allows you to kind of grow a bit. I mean, I know that with my own uncles and aunts. Um, how did you prepare for the role? I mean, are you an aunt yourself? Um, in 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 becoming Rachel.
I am a mom, and I have noticed that you're absolutely right. Even with my own mother, who's a grandparent, there's something about where the kids just aren't yours directly, that you have a lot more authority, or you get to have some kind of influence, and there's not necessarily a consequence that is attached to giving advice. So my take on the character was I just imagined her as like a good pair of jeans, like worn through, and it's the good standby jeans that you go to when you have nothing else to wear. And there's a kind of relaxedness, and because I've played a lot of characters in the past who are often in an emotional crisis of some sort, I really embraced Rachel as a breath of fresh air, that she was going to be loose and she could give permission to myself in just playing that part, that I didn't have to try so hard with her. She could just kind of float. Sorry for the analogy. But I think that's what, now that I think of it, that's probably the perfect analogy for Rachel. That she can float, she floats through life. Yeah, I wanted her to just be liberated and artistic.
And part of that is the ambiance, the environment, I think, in traveling to kind of places like the ones where you guys were. There's this kind of freedom, and there's this just serenity that I feel probably took your character, because I kind of was conjuring ideas of, well, like, well, she probably fell in love with this place just as well as Waverly is. Maybe there was a guy also, or maybe it was just this kind of calm and sereneness. How much did the environment around where you guys were shooting play into kind of building that kind of character for you that, like you're saying, floated?
Yeah, it was everything for me. I originally, there was a town that they had envisioned. I think maybe it was in the book. There was a town off of in British Columbia, a small little beach town, that the film was supposed to take place in, and then they used Squamish for that town, which is where we shot, was in this little town called Squamish. And that town is nestled in the mountains, and you are surrounded by just beautiful nature. And there's a lot of wildlife there. And I went to a restaurant, and there below the restaurant there were salmon swimming upstream, and they were spawning and dying there. And like the next day there were bears. But because that the area is nestled in the mountains and it's quite sequestered from everything, there really is a feeling in the film that she is retreating from life, that she is in this special town where she gets to figure herself out. There isn't that normal urban city center that's distracting you, and she can be on her road towards figuring out her identity. And in shooting this film, that's where we were. We were, in this really picturesque town, that people go to escape, your trials and tribulations of everyday life. And I think you can see that on screen.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. It made me really think about, the fact that I think all of us to some degree we do need to have that place to escape because we get so caught up in the day to day, hustle and bustle. Waverly, obviously, she had been working so hard to become a doctor. She probably that's all she focused on. And when she arrived to this place, when she gets to hang out with Rachel and kind of be liberated from all of that, I think kind of shifts your perspective or maybe even hits a reset button on you to some degree. Do you think that's important for all of us in general to have a place like this?
Yeah, I think when I was making the film, I was reading a book about awe and the concept of awe, which is, I'm saying the word AWE in case it's not clear, awe, but that our brains need awe to have that reset, to experience something that gets us out of our heads and out of that thinking part where we stress out and we get really bogged down with anxiety and stress. And I think it's important that that we see characters taking the time, especially at that age, which is, in your early 20s, you're so eager to start your life and you're so eager to make all the right decisions. You want to fulfill the expectations that people have of you. And what exactly is adulthood is making all the right decisions. And I think that, when we see characters in this environment really taking the time to think through their decisions, hopefully we are instilling some sense of value, in some sense of values into the world.
Yeah, it's important to slow down. I know for me, I completely shut down whenever I go to the Pacific Coast, to the point where my partner sometimes is like, "Are you okay?" It's like I'm shut off. I'm okay.
That's so healthy. That's really, really healthy. And it's great that you're cognizant of that, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know if some people are, they can't let go of the phone. We're so plugged in, and we live in a culture where we think being plugged in is connection, but it's actually not real connection.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. That's very, very true. And I kind of hope that besides, the romantic love story that is between Blake and Waverly, that you get some of that and that everyone's able to kind of take that from the film also to just kind of breathe. And I think, Rachel was a kind of that foundation for Waverly. And that's what my hope is.
Yeah, that was my hope too, was that you could see a maternal figure that was different than the mother, that gives her that fresh air, because the metaphor is obvious there. It's obviously there for floating and swimming and, holding your breath and letting go of your breath. And I think it's all quite literal, but the way the film handles it, I don't think it needs to be more complex than that, because it is in this romance, genre where we want to be in love with, the two characters, and hopefully we get a little dose of some, like good advice on the side.
Yeah, I mean, and with that, there's beauty in that simplicity also. So it's not necessary to overcomplicate it because then you're just stepping right back into what we're trying to get away from.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And with that said, tell me a little bit about working with Sharon Lee and her direction and making the film.
Sharon, for a first-time filmmaker, is really calm on set. She's very confident. She's very, I was very impressed with how easy she was. She's very at ease, and a lot of first-time filmmakers, they can be very anxious, or they can question or doubt themselves, or they might present confidently, but you can kind of sense that maybe they're a little, they're not exactly sure. And I think Sharon is really somebody who very much sits in her own power, and it's very nuanced. She's not aggressive. She's not somebody who kind of tells you what to do. She listens well, and she has a real sensitivity to listening. And I think the film is very reflective of who she is. It's thoughtful. It's very contemplative, and it's very classy. I think she has really good taste. So I think as a first-time filmmaker, I was quite impressed.
Michelle, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the conversation. Really, about a film that, like we were both talking, we hope people can take a step back, enjoy the love story, but also take a little bit of advice to kind of take your foot off the gas every now and then. And I'm gonna do it. Float.
Thank you. I think that's a great description. Take the foot off the gas and hit reset. I think they should hire you for the marketing here. So thank you.
Well, means you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
It was nice to meet you, and I hope to be able to talk to you again.
Thank you. Thanks for the platform to talk about the film.